In this auspicious era for humanity, there is a saying that goes, "Adepti come and go without a trace. Green moss grows on stones in the spring breeze, hard to find and their blessings harder still." Mere mortals often have great difficulty comprehending the laws of nature through experience, but these truths may instead be invested into ingenious devices. As such, one Adeptus known as Cloud Retainer seeks to enlighten humankind through the medium of mechanics and mentorship. Despite having vacated her Jade Void abode, she continues to cleanse the world below with heroism, and with wisdom imparts the laws of nature. With a new name, Xianyun, she walks this mortal realm, poised and seemingly unaffected. Xianyun's release as a playable character was highly anticipated for a very long time, and she has in no way been a disappointment. In the short time since her release, she has given us so much insight into the inner workings of her mind, her reasoning for investing so much thought into mechanical inventions, and of course her more sensitive side as a mother figure for her disciples. If this is the first video of mine you're seeing, welcome. You can call me Emerald, and I typically make deep dive style videos on a character's design and its real life influences. So if you're interested in the history of fashion and aesthetics and that type of thing, feel free to subscribe and stick around. This video is going to focus on analysing elements of Xianyun's design and characterisation, how they fit in with her role as an Adeptus within the region of Liyue, along with delving into some real-world history and influences from Chinese culture. If you've been on my channel before, thank you so much for coming back. There are a lot more of you here since my last upload, and I truly cannot express my gratitude enough. I also feel the need to apologise for my unforeseen break, but I'll speak more on that at the end of the video. Like always, just a quick disclaimer before we get started. This is just a collection of observations I found and pieced together. I'm not stating anything as fact. I'll also be mentioning some points from Xianyun's story quest, so please bear that in mind. It's easily one of the best story quests in all of Genshin though, so I highly recommend playing through it. Alright, enough yapping, let's get into it. The first thing I'd like to break down is the meaning of Xianyun's name, because it provides us with some context of her character and place within the world of Teyvat. Shen is a word derived from Taoism, roughly translating to immortal. Taoism is an ancient Chinese religion and philosophy that has significantly influenced folklore and natural belief even in today's society. The core belief of Taoism is that humans and animals should live in balance within the universe. Taoists believe in spiritual immortality, where the spirit within the body joins the universe after death. A Shen in Taoist folklore is an immortal mythical being, one who attained immortality and supernatural abilities through a connection with heavenly or celestial realms, which are inaccessible to mortals. They differ from the gods in Chinese mythology in such a way that they work to achieve their immortality, through means such as worship, spiritual self-cultivation, or alchemy. American sinologist Victor H. Mayer said the following in regards to the Shen. They are immune to heat and cold, untouched by the elements, and can fly, mounting upward in a fluttering motion. They dwell apart from the chaotic world of man, subsist on air and dew, and are not anxious like ordinary people. They live an effortless existence that is best described as spontaneous. Now, I know that's quite a bit of background for just one half of a name, but I promise this is going somewhere, so stick with me, alright? The second half of Cloud Retainer's chosen name, Yun, is a word meaning cloud, and is indicative of the skies and the heavens. It is a very unique surname in Chinese culture, thought to be as ethereal as a cloud-kissed sunrise, also deriving from actions such as revolving, moving, or whirling. Let's throw retaining in there as well for the sake of this analysis. All this talk of immortality and mythical beings naturally led my curiosity to wander, leading me to the legend of the 8 Immortals. These are a renowned group of Shen, revered for their ability to transcend the limitations of ordinary human life through Taoist beliefs and practices. As individuals, they can be thought of as mythological archetypes, each having gone down their own unique path to immortality. To the average person, they can be thought of as folk heroes or saints, often representing the close ties between the living and the deceased, since the spirits of the deceased are always within reach whenever help is needed. If it wasn't glaringly obvious by now, the main inspirations for the Adepti in Genshin Impact come from the Shen and the 8 Immortals. The word Shen is actually used in the game's Chinese dub as the name for the Adepti, along with Shenren, referring to an illuminated immortal person, such as Cloud Retainer, and Shenshou for the illuminated immortal beasts, such as the Qilin. With that being said though, Most Adepti are either illuminated beasts or have the blood of an illuminated beast running through their veins. The Adepti are considered beings beyond the comprehension of regular mortals, and they are often worshipped the same as deities by the people of Liyue. What humans call a millennium is but time for a short rest for an Adeptus in their abode. The 8 immortals were thought to reside in the mythical peaks of Mount Panglai. As for where the Adepti dwell, the sky is their pillow and the earth is their mat, so they may dwell in the mountains, rivers, lakes and seas. A prevailing school of thought by Liyue historians can be directly linked with the core beliefs of Taoism. Since the beginning have things existed, the heavens and the earth bounded by their limits, as do the myriad rivers of the world, all knowing a beginning and an end. Through the cosmos, the immortals came into being without waiting for the gods, acting without waiting for light and dark, moistening the woods and grass, soaking into metal and rock, their way of nature, their beginning unknown, their end unknowable. Xianyun herself believes that people who sought the path of the Adepti in ancient times had to pass the trials of heaven and earth, and that the torturous path to becoming an Adeptus was no less painful than the agonies of human life. Now, I could go into much more detail analysing the Adepti, and that's something I might consider for a future video. For now, however, we're here to speak solely about Xianyun, of course. Her adeptal name, Cloud Retainer, can be directly translated from its Chinese name to the perfected lord who retains the clouds by borrowing the wind, and her illuminated beast form is a crane. We have known Cloud Retainer for quite some time now, and up until last year's Lantern Rite, the idea of seeing her human form was but a mere pipe dream. Before we begin discussing and analysing the elements of her design, I'd like to speak a little bit about the significance of the crane in Chinese culture, and how this relates to Xianyun's characterisation. Since ancient times, the sight of a crane has been believed to bring peace and calm to those who beheld it, and the bird's presence was often called upon to resolve conflicts and restore balance to the world. They are often associated with longevity and immortality, and according to mythology, they are thought to live for over 1,000 years. If one spots a crane out in the wild, it is customary to bow one's head as a sign of respect for one's elders. Cranes are also seen as a symbol of peace and harmony, reflecting a gentle and graceful nature. In traditional works of art, they are often depicted standing in a mountain stream or surrounded by cherry blossoms, representing a serene life. They are known for their ability to navigate complex migratory routes, possessing great wisdom and intelligence, bringing a sense of clarity and guidance in their wake as they soar overhead. Their long-renowned connection with immortality, both in the physical and spiritual worlds, can be linked with Taoist beliefs we discussed earlier. According to legend, the Shen were sometimes thought to have magical abilities that allowed them to transform into cranes in order to fly on various journeys. The underlying principle of this belief is that all natural phenomena and things on Earth are an expression of heaven's will towards human conduct. By allowing oneself to be guided towards the destination of enlightenment by the crane, the core belief of spiritual immortality can be achieved. When we first met Cloud Retainer all the way back in patch 1.0, she came across as ill-tempered and impatient, scolding the traveller for disturbing the peace of her solitary abode. Throughout our journey, and on many occasions when we returned to Liyue, we've met with Cloud Retainer to discuss topics such as the history of the Adepti, anecdotes about her disciples and her peers, and her competitive nature when creating mechanical devices. Time and time again, she has displayed an austere sense of eloquence, fitting for an Adeptus of her renown and status. However, the more we've gotten to know her, and the more she has begun to consider us as trustworthy, she has allowed her more sensitive and vulnerable characteristics to peek through. Despite her somewhat rigid nature, her quick-witted, albeit sometimes awkward sense of humour always puts those around her at ease. This is what makes it apparent that her austerity is merely just for show. She reminds me of that one relative you might have that scolds children for misbehaving, but then looks back at you over her shoulder with a wry smirk as if to say, "I don't mind really, but you have to show them who's boss." Despite being an introvert at heart, she is very open to socialising, and is, in her own words, exceptional at seeking avenues for conversation, due to her being her own companion in idle talk for so many years. Prior to the Archon War, the Adepti of Xianyun Karst would often gather, feasting and drinking and playing music, some of them exchanging thoughts on their next inventions. The sense of compassion she gained from her friendships drove her to take in many disciples, including Ganyu and Shenhe, with the aim to carry forth a guiding legacy towards their own unique paths of enlightenment. According to her character story found in-game, watching her disciples often brings her great joy. They embody the hopes that her friends once cherished, and thus through them their spirit lives on. At times, her overflowing desire to protect and care for them seems to cause overwhelm and confusion, but this doesn't bother her in the slightest. As long as they stay safe, this is her expression of how much they mean to her, which is all that truly matters. Xianyun's fascination with the study of mechanisms grips her almost to the point of obsession. She believes that wisdom must first be sought from external sources, before insights are verified internally. One must refine oneself from the outside in, aligning inner thoughts with external realities to achieve a state of unity. The purpose of investigation is to explore the principles of all things, and thereby discover the universal truths that lie within. The sheer number of millennia she has lived through gives her a natural edge against mortals in terms of knowledge, and sorrow touches her mind at the notion of being unable to teach the full extent of this wisdom to them. It was this line of thought that led her to a profound conclusion. Though mere mortals might have great difficulty apprehending the laws of nature through experience, she herself could invest truths into ingenious devices, and thus enlighten humankind through the medium of mechanics. If machines can be used to aid those in need, or simply to help with daily household tasks, perhaps the idea of creating an earthly paradise is not so unheard of. It is in Xianyun's nature to be a caregiver, which we've seen many more examples of since her release as a playable character. These motherly qualities are not reserved solely for those she considers as disciples. Her keen eye for kindness and a strong sense of will in others allowed her to recognise Gaming's familial struggles during this year's Lantern Rite preparations. Like we discussed earlier, she has a vast wealth of knowledge gained through centuries of observing humankind, and so she was able to conduct an ingenious plan to mend the relationship between Gaming and his father, forging a new sense of harmony for them. In her story quest entitled Grus Serena, which translates to Serene Crane, Xianyun displays a formidable amount of patience and grace as she guides her former disciple Yuendai through the course of her long-forgotten memories. We learned that Xianyun granted Yuendai with the gift of longevity by providing her with tea pills laced with her own adeptal blood, so she may live for a few decades longer in her human form. Xianyun calls upon the aid of her newest invention, the Suspensus Somnium mechanism, allowing Yuendai to enter a relaxed state and recover her lost memories in order to guide her back into her original form as a crane, where she will continue to train as an Adeptus. Not only does Xianyun guide a former disciple back to her original home, leading her back towards the adeptal path, but she takes in Yuendai's granddaughter Xiyu as well, beginning the next generation of her disciples. Her exceptional patience and kindness during this quest was enough to skyrocket it right to the top of my favourites. And even still, she credits not only herself for Yuendai's fate, saying, "We Adepti can only help those who first resolve to help themselves. Had she lacked such determination and strength of character, one would have little to offer in the way of assistance." I of course did a lot of digging into the cultural significance of the crane for this analysis, but in order to discuss Xianyun's design in her human form, we must first look at the physical attributes of the bird itself. Can I just quickly mention, I'm very, very afraid of birds, so looking at lots of pictures of them was not fun for me at all. But anyway, we move on. Cranes, as we know, are large birds with noticeably long necks and legs. There are around 15 species of cranes that we know of, and they can be found across nearly every continent in the world. Typically, they have white and grey feathers, and we can also see black and red markings on some species' heads. The group that can be most closely linked with Cloudretainer is the Grus genus, which, as we already know, is in the name of her story quest we discussed earlier. Within that genus is the red-crowned crane. Native to East Asia, their most notable characteristics are the red markings on their faces, and their dark fluffy tail feathers which curl upwards or inwards. In mythology, they are sometimes called the fairy crane, and once again in Taoism, they are thought to be a symbol of longevity and immortality. According to legend, a mortal who achieves immortality is carried off by a crane towards the heavens. People also regard the red-crowned crane as a symbol of a high official, with the shape of the crane being embroidered onto the uniforms of civil servants. While in her crane form, Xianyun is taller than most humans, and has white feathers with blue, gold and black plumage. She also has red markings under her eyes, rather than on the top of her head like the red-crowned crane. One very unique element of this crane's design is the cloud patterns we see along her neck, wingspan, chest, and the back of her head. The name of this pattern in traditional Chinese artworks is Xianyun, not Xianyun, Xianyun. This word translates to auspicious clouds, and the pattern can be most easily categorized by its circular swirling sequence, depicting clouds being carried in all directions by the air currents that retain them. Symbolically, auspicious clouds refer to the arrival of the 8 immortals, who, according to legend, use the clouds as their mode of transportation. Like many symbols in Chinese culture, this motif is also linked with good fortune and prosperity, and is referred to very often in poetry and literature. This same cloud pattern can be seen throughout Xianyun's outfit in her human form, along her waistline, shoulder plates, cape and shoes. The difference in these patterns, however, is that they all appear to taper off into a pointed shape, like a wing ready to take flight. The overall silhouette of her outfit has a very long and sleek appearance, reminiscent of the long features of a crane, alluding to aerodynamic qualities. The flowing vertical lines seen throughout are indicative of air currents, which she manipulates while retaining the clouds. We had a chance to see that firsthand during Gaming's Lantern Rite performance. Speaking of Lantern Rite, remember back in my analysis of Yelan's outfit when we looked at the good luck knot and how it symbolises good fortune for the wearer? Well, Xianyun's Animo vision, albeit just for show, is contained within a similar good luck knot. 2 tassels instead of 1 are seen here, however. Does she feel like she needs some extra luck attached to this charm? Or perhaps she keeps 1 for herself and a second one for the prosperity of her disciples? The cape on Xianyun's outfit is a standout piece, with its blue, teal and mint colour palette, cascading down into strips of fabric fashioned into the shape of wings that have an almost glittering appearance. They are secured at the back of her neck with 2 long strips of fabric trailing down, next to the dark coloured layers of her dress, which resemble the dark tail feathers we can see in her crane form. Another thing I noticed while taking a closer look at these pieces is their somewhat translucent quality. They sort of remind me of fairy wings. Wait, what's the other name for the red-crowned crane again? Oh yeah, the fairy crane. Some of the other bird-like elements that carry over to Xianyun's human form are her pointed shoes, dark talon-like fingernails, and the long gold tassel hanging from her neck, which I believe is representative of the crane's beak. The hairpin Xianyun wears is derived from traditional Chinese ji, which were worn by all women regardless of their social status. Instead, how ornate these hairpins were is what marked their status. Xianyun's has the same auspicious clouds motif that we looked at earlier, and it is shaped like a feather, just like the feather on top of Cloud Retainer's head. The last bit of her outfit I'd like to mention is of course her red glasses. According to Xianyun herself, she doesn't actually need these to see, her eyesight is just fine. She chooses to wear them as a fashion accessory, and the red colour definitely helps her stand out amongst the crowd. Not that she needs much help in that regard. Now, if you've been on my channel before, you know that I love a bit of colour theory. The colour red often denotes feelings of passion. I think in Xianyun's case, her red glasses and the red markings under her eyes in her crane form are symbolic of the passion she has for the study of mechanical arts, and the desire she has to see those around her thrive to the best of their abilities. Like I briefly mentioned earlier, the colour palette seen throughout the remainder of her design is an eclectic mix of teal, gold and peach tones. Teal is regarded as a reserved colour, evoking feelings of mental clarity and practical thinking. It is typically used as a way to relieve stress or promote open communication. With this being the most prominent colour in Xianyun's design, I think it is most fitting for such a deep thinker as herself. Gold, like I've discussed a few times in my other videos, is often a representation of wealth, status or prestige. Cloud Retainer is a revered Adeptus for many reasons, and her talents know no bounds. The knowledge she has gained over the millennia grants her with a wealth of guidance she passes on to those around her. The peach-coloured accents on her outfit are a nice contrast to the cooler tones seen throughout. Orange, yellow and pink are required to make peach, but white is also needed to make the shade more muted. The feelings of joy and exuberance evoked by these vibrant tones are soothed by its pastel appearance, making it feel a bit more subtle and introverted. This is a good reflection of Xianyun's personality overall, as she often tries to keep her sociable and excitable sides a bit more reserved, in order to retain her status as a respectable mother figure. Something glaringly obvious about this colour palette that I noticed immediately upon Xianyun's release is that it perfectly complements the surroundings of Chenyu Vale, which was released alongside her in patch 4.4. I have had so much fun exploring this picturesque area, so much so that it has brought me to tears on numerous occasions now. Playing as Xianyun in Chenyu Vale also just feels so special. It's the first time in quite a while that I felt so much love for Genshin. It's brought me that same level of excitement I had when exploring Liyue and Sumeru for the first time, just magical. Overall, Xianyun is admirable and formidable to say the very least. Her treatment towards others, not just her disciples, but her peers, the traveller, and other mortals she encounters, has always reminded me of a teacher I had and will never forget. The type of person that you respect so much that it spurs you on to want to do better. And it makes you have faith in your own abilities with just a little nudge in the right direction. We could all learn a lot from someone like that. Before I sign off for this video, I quickly just want to apologise again for my somewhat prolonged absence. Being completely honest, dare I say vulnerable for a moment? I was suffering with a nasty bout of writer's block for the better part of a month. As you all know, I write these scripts from start to finish completely by myself, along with everything else that goes into making the videos. And while I absolutely love doing it all, sometimes it's just hard to get those creative juices flowing, despite a burning desire to get something uploaded. But the wheel started turning in my brain again, and I'm so happy with how this one turned out. I hope you liked it too. If you'd like to see more analysis videos from me, please give the video a thumbs up and subscribe. I hugely appreciate it. As always as well, I love reading your comments about any of your own theories you might have. Responding to those and seeing you all have your own little theory crafting sessions always makes my day. Okay, one last piece of news before I go. Either right before or right after this video goes up, I have started streaming on Twitch. I'm reserving that just for more fun gameplay content, so if you'd like to see me be a lot less scripted and well-mannered, give me a follow over there to check it out. That's twitch.tv/EmeraldTaurian. Thank you so much. Alright everyone, that's gonna be it from me today. I'll see you all again very soon for another analysis which I have already begun researching. Have an amazing day and stay safe wherever you are. Goodbye!